Take time to watch the sunrise. Make time to take time before they on by. Take time to smell the flowers. Make time before they're all dry. Early to bed, early to rise. Take time to live before you die. Time to watch the sunrise. Time before it's gone by. Time to smell the flowers. Time before they're all dry. Take time to hear the birds sing. Make time to take time before they all fly. Take time to ride the river. Make time before it runs dry. You feel in your heart the time is at hand to make a new start, to care for the land. Time to hear the birds sing. Time before they all fly. Time to ride the river. Time before it runs dry. Take time to climb the mountains. Make time to take time to look to the sky. Take time to taste the freedom. Make time to at least try. With every step, the victory is won. It's hard to resist once you've begun. Time to climb the mountains. Time to look to the sky. Time to taste the freedom. Time to at least try. Take time to at least try.
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks to Art and Cooper and Nikki. We appreciate the beautiful music you've brought us today. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Salt Lake City. Today is our Earth Day program presented by the Environmental Ministry here at First Unitarian. Our focus today is reconnecting to hope. Our opening words are from Joanna Macy. This is a dark time, filled with suffering and uncertainty. Like living cells in a larger body, it is natural that we feel the trauma of our world. So don't be afraid of the anguish you feel, or the anger, or the fear. These responses arise from the depth of your caring and the truth of your interconnectedness with all beings. We light this chalice to find inner peace, love for each other, and faith in ourselves. Gather around this light of hope as we share this time together. Please rise as you are willing and able and open your hymnals to page 21.
Good morning. Our theme this morning is Reconnecting to Hope. But you may wonder how it is possible for anyone who has been paying attention to have hope. We're living through the sixth great extinction, through a time of misuse and overuse of resources, and the beginnings of global warming. Global warming in particular has me scared stiffless about my granddaughter's future. My husband and I are old enough that we probably won't have to deal with very much of what's coming, but what will she have to face? Things are going from bad to worse much faster than anyone expected. Excuse me. For instance, drought is a terrible problem all around the world, from California to the Mediterranean to India, from South America to Australia. Rising temperatures will desiccate the land. Already we have more and worse wildfires during a longer wildfire season than ever before. If we go on the way we are, we risk denuding the land from redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. First, vegetation will dry out and burn up, and then wind and flash floods will do the rest. What we call the breadbasket of America, the Great Plains of the United States and Canada, will become another Sahara Desert, complete with sand dunes. The Central Valley of California, which grows most of our fruits and vegetables, will be just as dry, although without the sand dunes. The lands of the far north, where temperatures will be what we now think of as normal, usually don't have the right kind of soil to grow our food. Where will food be coming from? Will any of us have the means to grow enough food to sustain ourselves? Another scary situation is how fast the oceans are rising. Predictions have been that they would rise about 1 meter by the end of the century, but the latest research shows that it will be at least 2 meters. This means that almost every coastal city in the world, which means most of the great cities of the world, will be drowned, along with their cultures. Millions and millions of people will be fleeing inland, looking for food, shelter, a new home. And what will they find? What will we have? During the years before that, climate refugees from the south will have been coming in greater and greater numbers as their land becomes too hot and dry to grow crops. So how can I have hope? I must have hope. I could not live with myself and what I have helped do to this earth without hope. Certainly, much of what is coming will come. Even if we stopped using fossil fuels this minute, even if there was not another methane leak ever. But it doesn't mean we are completely doomed. We can stop the worst of it. We need every person to do their share in cutting back, and we need our legislators to create laws that make sure that business and industry cuts back as well and do their share. How can we do that? Well, we geared up for World War II in no time flat. We went from not having a prospect of such a thing to landing a man on the moon in less than 10 years. How could we do that? We did it because we needed to do it. It was important enough to us that we did it. I have hope that enough people will finally get the reality of climate change at a gut level that we will turn the tide. I want the ravages of global warming to end before people start killing each other over water. I think of my granddaughter and hope that together we can do this. And what gives me that hope? Well, every meeting of Citizens Climate Lobby that I attend, every action that I go to, whether it's sponsored by Elders Rising or Peaceful Uprising or whoever, brings out people who have never been active before. More and more people are realizing that something needs to be done. And it's those new faces that give me hope. Enough new faces will mean that my granddaughter and all the others of her generation and beyond will not have to face the terrible world that is predicted for them. So I will keep fighting and hoping. Please join me. I'll get you started by teaching you what I but to me is the latest protest song. It's a theme of the Keep It in the Ground movement. It's number 3 in your list of songs that was handed out to you, although I don't think you're going to need the words. I'm going to sing it through once, and then on the second time I'll ask you to join in, and we'll sing it 2 or 3 times. Okay. People gonna rise like the water, we're gonna calm this crisis down. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying, keep it in the ground. People gonna rise like the water, we're gonna calm this crisis down. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying, keep it in the ground. People gonna rise like the water, we're gonna calm this crisis down. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying, keep it in the ground. People gonna rise like the water, we're gonna calm this crisis down. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying, keep it in the ground. Yes, you guys are ready. Join me.
Judy, thanks so much for your words and for bringing this congregation to their feet. I've never been able to accomplish that. Let me tell you, it was about a week, maybe 10 days, following the meeting when Joan and Michael and I kind of outlined this Earth Day service, focusing intently on reconnecting hope to the work of the climate movement. Just a devastating piece of news was released. It was indeed that cloud of doom started coming over once again when virtually every tabloid in the country, every conceivable news outlet on radio and television, online, began to demonstrate or began to articulate what the climate scientists are now saying. And that is they had just released their latest projections about the West Antarctic ice sheet melting at an inconceivable rate. Do you remember hearing that news? It was frightening, front page all over. And this was a week after we were talking about hope. The climate scientists refer to this as a sword of Damocles hanging over human civilization. God. Our high emissions of heat-trapping gases could trigger the disintegration of the ice sheet within decades. The timetable has been moved up by centuries. In fact, by the year 2100, with ice melting in other regions as well, sea levels could rise easily by 6 feet. Our children, and most assuredly our grandchildren, will be alive in 2100. They'll be alive as this century comes to an end, and they will witness the devastating consequences of today's inaction. So is it still possible, really, to speak of hope? Indeed it is, absolutely. And it's not really a matter of putting on those rose-tinted glasses that most ministers keep by their bedsides in order to lift the spirit of the congregation on Sunday mornings. And it's not a matter of simply switching perspectives, because we are definitely looking at life-threatening conditions on this earth due to global warming. But the hope lies in the transformative changes that occur whenever overwhelming scientific evidence tears down the walls of lies. These lies perpetuated by industries whose bottom line carry more significance than human life. The tobacco industry, for example, which had hired its own scientists and health experts to directly contradict and deny the objective research that linked I had trouble with this at the 9 o'clock service. Incontrovertible evidence between cigarettes and cancer. That demonstration of falsehood finally caved in 1977 when the tobacco industry admitted that, yes, smoking causes cancer and heart disease. More recently, after years of the National Football League disputing evidence, falsifying their own research in efforts to disprove the legitimate science that connected football to chronic traumatic encephalopathy, the degenerative brain disease found in almost 100 former players, the league finally conceded just a few weeks ago that the answer to whether or not all these concussions lead to CTE was a definite yes. It was a totally stunning announcement. All the former claims that the brain disorder was just highly sensationalized proved a weak distraction to the actual science. The NFL acknowledged that their own studies were deeply flawed. It was another victory for science over corporate denial. At some point, science has to win out at the end. How could it be otherwise? So the hope filtering through today's grim battle between the science of climate change and the irrational refutation presented by fearful corporations, who also try to convince the public that limited emissions will destroy the economy, the hope rests with the latest poll that finds that more than 70% of Americans now accept the reality of climate change. The era of climate change denial is over. And our Utah congressional delegation, they're going to run smack into this wall. They're going to understand that they're working on the fear of people, of the economy. This is all going to go nowhere. The era of climate denial is over. You can see what's happening to the coal industry. You can see how desperate McConkie is. It's changing right here before our eyes. The reality of climate change has, and this is what has contributed to Americans finally buying into climate change science, is because the effects of climate change are affecting us right here in this nation. The rising level of seawater is no longer an issue confronting some of the more remote areas of the world, like Bangladesh. Conclusive evidence is now accepted by Americans that greenhouse gases from human activity, largely from the burning of fossil fuels, has caused the oceans to rise at the fastest rate since the founding of ancient Rome. The increasing routine tidal flooding is making life miserable in places like Miami Beach, Charleston, South Carolina, Norfolk, Virginia, even on sunny days. And places like Lower Manhattan recognize the current flooding as a harbinger of the coming danger. So let's put this all together into one context that I think begins to make sense. And that is when hard science underscores the reality of life-threatening danger, the real evidence refutes all false claims that climate change is but a hoax, then new policies can begin to right the wrongs of a very ignorant past of all the foolish positions that we have held on to so desperately for so long. Once policy is aligned with science, then it is possible to reimagine new alternative energies, redirect the economy, and impose highly needed environmental regulations to bring our relationship with the earth back into balance. Virtually the entire world has accepted the goals articulated at the Paris Climate Conference, holding the increase in the global average temperature to 2 degrees Celsius. Well, yes, there will still be devastating changes felt around the world, but the worst case scenarios can be averted. Now, here's the good news. The cost of renewable energy sources like wind and solar continue to fall. Last year, for the first time, renewables accounted for a majority of new electricity generating capacity around the world. China, India, and Brazil are investing heavily in renewable energy. 10.3% of all electricity generated globally came from renewables, double the amount from 2007. The reduction in carbon emissions can be achieved more quickly and more capably than widely believed. This provides hope that nations will be able to achieve the ambitious goals set in Paris last December. So when you look at the whole picture, you come to understand that we are only a few years from a world in which carbon-neutral sources of energy can replace much of our consumption of fossil fuels at a very modest cost. So as a technical matter and an economic one, drastic reductions in the emissions are within our grasp to actually achieve. All we need is for environmental policy to be aligned with the evidence. We've been there before, at the juncture of science dismantling all the resistance erected by self-serving corporations. Eventually, the tobacco industry caved, and now we're seeing the NFL concede its costly mistakes. And with regard to climate change, irrefutable evidence from the scientific community and the falling cost of renewables make hope once again part of the environmental lexicon. The prospect of keeping energy affordable while saving lives around the planet will, and I guarantee, result in new policies that will ultimately lead to a sustainable Earth. Now, logically, the sooner these policies are implemented, the more viable our hope. And that's why this election is unquestionably the most important election in our lifetime. So much rides on the right president to be elected at this time in history, so that we can finally dovetail environmental policies with the scientific realities. The life of our planet and the world, the future of our grandchildren, they're all on the line this November. But hope is within our grasp.
For the beauty of the earth, for the the glory of the sky, for the love which from our birth over and around us lie, for the beauty of each hour, of the day and of the night, hill and vale and tree and flower, sun and moon and stars of light, for the mountains crown of white, for the truth in eagle eye, for the wondrous gift of sight, for the soul that soars on high, heaven and earth to thee we raise. This our hymn of grateful praise, for the beauty of the earth, for the glory of the sky.
Art Lee, that was wonderful. Thank you so very much. Nikki, thank you so much for accompanying. And Cooper is doing double duty this morning. He is now up with the high school kids, giving them some truth and in his own inimitable style. Our music's been great today. One of the things I learned from Art, I know nothing about musical composition, but what he did with For the Beauty of the Earth, and it's so logical when you think about it. When we sing it in our hymn books, it's the melody goes for the beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the skies, and our voice goes down. And Art said, this is ridiculous because the sky is above the earth. So what he did was turn it around for the beauty of the earth, and then raises his voice for the splendor of the sky. It's so commonsensical and logical, and yet so beautiful to listen to. It just turns it around and makes it as it should be. Everyone here should realize that Art also has a nonprofit called Art and Nature, in which he primarily teaches young people about nature through art. And that's exactly what is so desperately needed to helping the little ones really understand what's going on in our environment so that they can be wiser in the choices they make as they grow up. And so if you are so inclined, and we hope so, to make some contributions to this program called Arts and Nature, if you do so in the coffee hour, Art will give you free, I guess it's free, once you make a contribution, it's free, of his CD, and it'll be Art as a soloist and his guitar. It's a lovely CD. I'm fortunate enough to have one, and so that's going to be available in the coffee hour. Also hope that you take a peek in the center, right in the guts of your program here, to take a look at the upcoming environmental ministry programs. Joan will make it clear exactly what lies ahead. We've got some great programming ahead. An opportunity for all of us to really get involved organizationally, programmatically, so that we can make a difference and move things along. And I hope that you all seriously consider doing so. One last announcement concerning our pledge drive. We are still collecting pledges from those of you who have been here a long time, have contributed as members and friends, but for some reason has got away from you. Pledge cards will be available. And for those of you who are new, just wondering about, gee, this is quite a church community. How does it work? Well, it works in mysterious ways, but financial support is also very, very important. So think about the contributions that you will want to make. Fill out a pledge card, and that would be deeply, deeply welcomed. For now, the offering will be gratefully received, a chance to greet one another and wish each other a happy birthday.
Hello. This is a story of a journey to hope. The journey to discover or uncover hope is an individual one. It's not a destination, but a journey. A continual one, because once you realize the scope, scale, and urgency of the situation we face, hope must be captured and recaptured again and again. And while the journey is an individual one, the journey to uncover hope is never taken alone. Now I'll share an outline of my own journey, the part that time allows here. I invite you to join me on May 6th, the evening program in Elliott Hall, where we'll fill in more of the story, but more importantly, where we promise to help you locate and realize hope for yourself as you face the music. Prior to the journey, I've got to tell you that the trip contains for me a large dose of pain and fear, my real experiences. Here's the outline. I've lived most of my life in New Orleans. My mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother lived nowhere else. My great-grandmother was a formidable woman, taller and larger than I am. And she ran a boarding house for sailors and merchant marine on the shore of the Mississippi River. Now, what do you think of when I mention New Orleans? What images do you associate with New Orleans? I'll bet a lot of the visual images you get are the ones that you saw on television after that great, horrible tragedy of Katrina. For me, New Orleans images are the great oaks that line St. Charles Street and provide canopies that literally block out the sun. I remember walking the boardwalk along the Mississippi River over and over again at the foot of Canal Street. And of course, the crawfish and the shrimp, the once limitless bounty of the Gulf of Mexico. But here comes the pain and fear. Together, let's return to what Judy Lord said to you earlier, because, and here is the nub of the story, New Orleans is one of the lost coastal cities. As Judy mentioned, New Orleans is literally a dead man walking, a city condemned. All we need to do to execute New Orleans is to keep doing what we're doing. And the bitter truth is, no matter what we do, New Orleans may not be able to be salvaged. On the other hand, Best science and consensus science argues that with swift emergency action, slashing fossil fuels, we can avert the worst of climate chaos and salvage a livable future for much of humanity. Swift and decisive action is the key. Swift and decisive action is the key. So I move in and out of stages of grief, connected to the reality that we have catastrophes coming. Eventually, I arise at some measure of acceptance. Acceptance isn't a permanent state because I move in and out of acceptance and in and out of the grief associated with the climate emergency. It is with acceptance, though, that a door opens, and through that door, a realization comes. That's this. The cure for grief, probably the only cure for grief, is action. My own acceptance looks something like this. How can we fail to do everything we can when so much of life and so much of humanity depends on our doing what's necessary and doing it now? I like Winston Churchill's quote from England's successful struggle against Nazi Germany, and it's a quote we have on our amazing flyer. He said, "It's not enough to do our best. Sometimes we have to do what is required." But how does one act? What action does one take? Everyone knows the ocean of overwhelm that this wicked crisis produces and the fear and pain we feel because of it. In this wicked crisis, to act, you will need support. Joining organizations working at scale, working with and organizing coalitions. Also, we know that grief work is done with others. Acceptance is found with the love and help of those responding to the crisis with you. For it's only through a deep and abiding love for each other and coming back together to the body of life, the sacred body of life upon which we depend utterly, that we have any chance at all. So here I can only give you a snapshot of my own action responses. You could hear more Friday evening on May 6th. First, we're in a global warming emergency. Why don't we declare one? So, along with 7 other organizations, we at the Association for the Tree of Life have sent out already over 350,000 requests to individuals to sign on a petition that asks our president to declare a global warming state of emergency. Many of you have already received this petition request. We will get to millions of asks with this petition this year. So you ask, well, what's the hope with this? I answer, well, Bernie gets it. He's already talked about World War II type of mobilization as needed to deal with this. So he's actually said we need to mobilize in this emergency. The famous godfather of climate science, Jim Hansen, mentioned emergency just this Friday. And my favorite climate science writer, Mark Hertsgaard, mentioned it twice in Nation magazine this week. So the meme may well viralize and catch on And we may respond. We may say, or we may see what we're doing. Is the explosion of record temperatures across the world this year a good clue? Don't you think? So we will keep asking. Second, we will need a climate emergency coalition to press for the right policy framework. So we've begun one, and we have the policy prescriptions. We have the right goal. As our website explains, we have no carbon left to burn, and we need to be zero carbon within a decade to give New Orleans time to vacate and move her poisons away from the Gulf. You might ask, well, how will the Climate Emergency Coalition get the public, the President, and Congress on its side so that we do what is necessary? You might say, tell me how you find hope there. Good question. We hold hope because once before we have gotten the public, the President, and the Congress to enact legislation to create what is the largest ecological restoration on our earth, with billions of dollars of appropriations because the public taxed itself. That national legislation, the Coastal Wetlands Planning, Protection, and Restoration Act, lives on. And it took only 3 years for us to accomplish it. So we hope we might do it again. It's our way to act and to help in this emergency. So these were some snapshots of how we reach for hope in our Association for the Tree of Life world. Come to our May 6th program to hear more and identify that journey of hope for yourself. Come to hear about our letters to Bill Gates, his wish for technological miracles, and the response we got from Gates. Come to hear about the Paris Agreement and how the national representatives married unicorns. Come to hear about the back and forth we've held with Peter Buffett after 700 letters to him. So in summary, I say that sometimes, just sometimes, we do hold the brass ring of hope in our grasp. So I'll end with an action quote. On our spaceship Earth, there are no passengers. When we wake up and look past our fear of flight, we realize that we are all crew.
It may seem very small, but every little thing adds up to be it all, the future that we bring. What can we do to help the earth? It may seem really far, we've only just begun. Change every house and car to work by wind and sun. This we can do to help the earth. Let's show our children that we care. Revive, renew, refresh the air. Yes, this we can do. This we can do. This we can do to help the earth. plant trees and native seeds that help the wilds regrow. This feeds the birds and bees, the web of life we know. What can we do to help the earth? I find the less I use, the less I think I need. As for the things I lose, in truth I'm really freed. This we can do to help the earth. This we can do to help the earth. Recycle everything we can. Reduce, reuse, restore the land. Yes, this we can do. This we can do. This we can do to help the earth. This we can do to help the earth. Let's show our children that we care. Revive, renew, refresh the air. Yes, this we can do. This we can do. This we can do to help the earth. This we can do to help the earth. This we can do to help the earth. This we can do to help the earth.
What can you do to help the earth? What must you do? I do this work, this climate justice work, this intergenerational climate justice work for my children, for your children, for my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren, all over the children, all over this world, all over this earth who are suffering from the ravages of climate change right now. Right now, while we are sitting here in our church, in our pews. Born in 2015, Maddie, my only grandchild, will be 35 years old in 2050, 85 in 2100. It's not an option for me to do nothing. It's just not an option. What I do, what I must do to reconnect to hope is to take action. Take action. And I take action with the groups that you see in your order of service today. Organizations that partner with and work in coalition with environmental ministry. We take action. We work towards solutions, and we need you. We need each and every one of us. Today in Elliott Hall, for you, we have 350 Salt Lake City working on fossil fuel divestment by calling on the Natural History Museum of Utah and the University of Utah to divest from the fossil fuel industry, just like First Unitarian Church of Salt Lake City did. Quite the task. We have the Association for the Tree of Life, which takes the climate crisis seriously. So seriously that they are a lead organization calling for a declaration of a global warming state of emergency. Sign their petition and commit to taking action at the scope, scale, and urgency of the climate crisis. We have Citizens Climate Lobby, which focuses on generating the political will to pass carbon fee and dividend legislation, to put a fee on carbon at the source and return the dividends to households. Get trained, get involved in writing letters to the editor and engaging elected officials and the public in creating a real solution. We have Elders Rising, for intergenerational justice. And they are calling upon the generation that came of age in the 60s. Well, I see a lot of us around here today, to reawaken and fulfill the dreams that we had to create a better world. It is our time to become true elders in the traditional and deepest sense, and act as guardians of the future on behalf of generations to come. Rise up, elders. The future is calling us to greatness. One very common message among our organizations is that we must keep the coal, oil, and gas, the tar sands, and the oil shale in the ground to defend a livable future. The Tavaputs Action Council is a regional alliance of grassroots activists from various organizations that have come together to focus their human energy on the extreme energy extraction center of Utah, the Tavaputs Plateau. Sign up to plug into this effort to experience and defend the Book Cliffs of eastern Utah in all its splendor and all its destruction. And last but not least, environmental ministry has been the liberal, environmental, religious voice in our community since at least 2001. Environmental and climate justice action is our call. Get on our mailing list and come to our upcoming programs, which we are hosting in conjunction with Elders Rising, the Association for the Tree of Life, the Civil Liberties Defense Center, and with Arts and Nature. All are listed in the order of service, as well as in the organization list. As we extinguish our chalice, environmental ministry is calling on you, on all of us, to commit to action on this Earth Day. Join us, sign up, help us, make a commitment. We cannot do this without you. Our hope is with you. We must do this together, in coalition, and in the context of solutions. Hold on to your commitment. Hold on to real, genuine action. Hold on to your dreams of a healthy, just, and livable future. Join us. Make it real. The future is calling us to greatness.
Hold on to the calling of the wild, the web of life on which we all rely. Hold on to the wonder of a child, the innocence of youth to question why. And if in course we pay cost the calling of the wild, the innocence of youth has lost the wonder of a child. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on to the beauty of the earth, the rhythm song in ocean's roaring waves. Hold on to the miracle of birth, the gift of life in mother's loving gaze. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on to the power of a dream, that destiny is only what we make. Hold on to a spirit to redeem, the will to change us for the future's sake. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on to the calling of the wild, the web of life on which we all rely. Hold on to the wonder of a child, the innocence of youth to question why. And if in course we pay and cost the calling of the wild, the innocence of youth is lost, the wonder of a child. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on to the beauty of the earth, the rhythm song in ocean's roaring waves. Hold on to the miracle of birth, the gift of life in mother's loving gaze. Hold on to the power of a dream, the destiny is only what we make. Hold on to a spirit to redeem, the will to change is for the future's sake. The will to change is for the future's sake. It wasn't mentioned, I've spent 20 years photographing national parks. I have a show on national parks. That's what's referenced in the program. It's June 3rd, so I hope you can be there. Now, please join us in Elliott Hall for coffee, conversation, and for action.